UConn men face the Colorado Buffaloes, and no, Deion Sanders will not be there. You're locked on.
You are Locked On UConn, your daily podcast on the UConn Huskies, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making Locked On UConn your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts, on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Before we dive into today's show, quick update from all of us at Locked On. October and November have been fantastic months, and it's all because of you guys. Thanks for your support, especially a shout out to my everydayers. The community that we're growing here is happening really fast, exponential growth, and we're thrilled to give back by donating 10% of our revenue to Husky Ticket Project, helping send kids to UConn games. We'll be getting that monthly check to them by the end of this month, probably after Thanksgiving. We also make a monthly donation to Bleeding Blue for Good and hope you'll consider supporting them too. If you're enjoying the show, please take a moment to subscribe and to follow wherever you listen. Thanks for making Locked On UConn your first listen every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Okay, so let's wash the stench of that game yesterday against Memphis off. We're not going to talk about it as much today, but I do think that game should be use it as a learning tool for the players to come out and set the tone. You kind of entered the Maui Invitational as a favorite to win it. They lost in overtime to Memphis 99-97. This matchup against Colorado really isn't just about bouncing back, but solidifying UConn on the defensive side. I think UConn's always going to score points, but that defense yesterday was atrocious. You know, we can talk about referees, we can talk about Dan Hurley, we can talk about all the crap that went on, and trust me, we talked about it on our live show. If you didn't see it, it's on our YouTube channel. It's on where you get your podcasts. My issue from a structural and a alignment standpoint is UConn's defense. They are not showing the type of grit, the passion, the intensity that it takes to be a Dan Hurley style defense. And I give all credit to Memphis's guards for having a dominant game. I said it before the game that Tyrese Hunter was the X factor, and he ended up being that. So as wrong as I was about Memphis being dominated by UConn, I was right about knowing how good Tyrese Hunter was. I was more shocked that PJ Haggerty was as good as he was, so I'll take the L on that. But I've seen more of Tyrese and thought he was going to be a problem regardless. But anyway, so I don't know what that means for our guards, if we need to keep tinkering, if we need to see a little more Ahmad Noel, if we need to see maybe an Isaiah Abraham come in as a bigger guard for defensive purposes instead of putting him on a wing. Who knows, man? I think that's the biggest question going into this game. I think the positives are you kind of raced a 12-point deficit in the final minutes and really kind of showcased a little bit of the fighting spirit. And also it was good to see them not fold. Liam McNeely was, you saw him vocal in the huddle and also to his teammates. Solo ball was clutch, hitting a game tying 3-pointer to force overtime. And then obviously Tarris Reed, man, 22 points and 11 rebounds. The guy was an absolute monster. He balled out. He really kind of showed the type of talent that he is, and where that goes. Maybe he starts, maybe he comes off the bench. Either way, this kid is a stud, and he should be treated as such. Jalen Stort, 16 points, 6 assists. I think his dad tweeted out something like he only played like 15 minutes and had 16 points and 6 assists. I mean, it's incredible. So I just think that, this team has a lot of talent all over the place. But what they need to find is what's in here, man. That heart. Alex Karaban always does the right thing. He always makes the right decision. Some of these guys need to figure out not all of these guys are elite athletes. And I would put Alex in that category. If you think Alex Karaban's an elite athlete, then I have a beachfront property to sell you in Kansas. He's not. But what he makes up for it is by being the smartest guy on the court and being decisive. Decisive. I want to see Hassan Diarra make the more decisive plays at the point. I want to see Aiden Mahaney be more decisive if he's going to play at all. We shouldn't be going like, oh, God, finally, when he does something that's notable. And I think that's what I'm hearing, not necessarily myself. I'm taking a more measured approach on Aiden because I think he's got it, but he hasn't showed it. I mean, I can't keep saying that he's the guy when he just hasn't been. And there's a little too much side to side with him. He needs to get more downhill. If he can't do it, that's where I want to see him on. But I think this game is pivotal for UConn to regain momentum and kind of get that stench of that Memphis game and all the crap that happened after with, people complaining about Danny and complaining about, whether or not, he should have reacted that way. Did he cause them the game? Look, the last thing I'm going to say before we get to segment 2, this is a quick pod in terms of just kind of giving you guys a little something to chew on before the game starts at 3:30 Eastern time. For anybody that thinks that Dan Hurley is going to change who he is, doesn't know who he is as a person. And I don't know him, but I'd like to think that since I've been covering this team, you know what he is now. If you don't think that the bad whistle that they were getting at home against low major and mid majors has started to bubble over, and then to have these refs that he said he was very familiar with, and one that he didn't, essentially take control of that game at pivotal moments. I mean, guys, it's like I joke around sometimes with my wife, and she does the same thing with me. It's like, have you met me? Like, we've been married for a while now. Like, we know who we are. So let's not be surprised at how someone reacts when that's who they are and that's how they react in these situations. Has he gotten better? Sure. But he's still a human being. And he still is the best coach in college basketball. So don't give me comparisons to Mark Pope, who hasn't won an NCAA tournament game. Don't give me comparisons to Bobby Knight, who used to choke his players. Don't give me comparisons to Roy Williams, who is, the sweet old man who was happened to be there. It was good to see Roy in the stands. Don't give me comparisons to anybody. He is one of one. He's a psycho. And that's exactly the way I want him, because that's what gives him the competitive edge and keeps that chip on his shoulder. The minute he loses that, then it's time to start questioning his motives and things of that nature. But he's not. He's going to be ready today. The boys are going to be ready today. Let's talk about players to watch and move on from there after this. There's nothing like being at a game, feeling the energy of the crowd, the sound of sneakers squeaking on the court, and the pure adrenaline when your favorite team hits that buzzer beater. We saw yesterday with Solo Ball. Whether it's spotting celebrities courtside like my guy Penfield at the game, or Big Larry, hearing the roar of the fans, or simply being a part of the action. Live sports are an experience you can't replicate at home. And it's not just sports, concerts, comedy shows, theater performances. It's all better live. Now let's talk about you at Game Time and their new Game Time Picks feature, which takes all the hassle out of finding tickets. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you the best deals on the great seats so you can focus on the fun, not the search. I used Game Time recently for an upcoming game and was blown away by how easy it was. Their super deal option helped me lock in amazing seats at a fraction of the price for a family member that was looking for tickets. Plus, the app shows you exactly what your seat view looks like before you buy. No surprises, just confidence in your purchase. On top of that, Game Time has your back with the lowest price guarantee, even cancellation protection. If you find tickets for less, they'll credit you 110% of the difference. That's the kind of peace of mind that makes this app a must-have. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. So what time is it, guys? Game time. All right, guys, we're back on Locked On UConn. Quick little preview before we start to watch that 3:30 start for Eastern time start for the game today in Maui, consolation game 2. Players to watch, the usual: Alex Karaban, Solo, Liam McNeely. I think for me, I want to watch more what lineups we see. Are we going to see Tarris Reed supplanting Samson Johnson in the starting lineup today? That's the question I have. I think most people think that should happen since he had 22 points and 11 rebounds yesterday, and he's averaging almost 14 points a game and 10 rebounds to start. He's been a consistent double-double guy, and he honestly looked like he could have scored 30 or 35 points against Memphis yesterday because they had nobody who could stop them. Cisse, Deja, they tried, but they were not successful. And even when he missed, he got his own rebound and put it back, finished with many and-ones. I'm considering the BS offensive foul that he got as an and-one as well. So he probably should have had 24 points. And honestly, that to me was the most egregious of all of it. As silly as some of these calls were, it's like this guy was dominating. And just because the guy is smaller than him and he was in his personal space or in the cylinder, as everyone that's an expert now on cylinder fouls was talking about on Twitter yesterday. But anyway, I digress. Jalen Stewart, I think we're going to see him off the bench first. I think Jaden Ross still looked a little skittish against better competition. I like him. I think his stock is still rising. But Jalen is more confident than him when it comes to these big-time games because he's done it. And I think Jaden's going to have to ease his way back into that. Colorado is a balanced attack. They really don't have a ton of guys that kind of jump out at you. I think their best player is Elijah Malone. He's a center. Was he 6'11"? I feel like that. Or maybe that's Andre Jack. Yeah, he's 6'10". He's from Indiana. He's been with them for, let's see his career stats. He's averaging 14 points and 6 rebounds a game right now. He's a freshman. Pretty cool. I'll be honest with you guys. He's a senior. My biggest thing is I don't know a ton about Colorado. I watched them against Michigan State. They got beat pretty bad. They probably could have. If Michigan State shot better, they probably would have won by 25 points. So, but listen, what do I know? I thought UConn was going to win against Memphis by about 15 or 17 points, just based off of what I saw and also the analytics of it all. That's why you play the game, though, folks. Right? To me, though, this is more about UConn than it is Colorado. Colorado is. I saw someone in one of the chats I was in that Colorado is probably where people thought Memphis is in terms of their ability. So maybe this is the game we win by, 15 to 17 points. But it is what it is. I'm more concerned about where this lineup goes. If there's going to be changes in the starting lineup, and if they start slow again, when will he pull the trigger on putting in guys like some of the freshmen? Give Isaiah Abraham some run. Give Ahmad Noel some run. I know there's some scuttlebutt about him hurting his hand, that it was wrapped. He's cleared by the team. If he's cleared by the team and he's available, he should see some. He should see some minutes today. So we'll see about that. When we come back, we're going to talk about the keys to victory and my predictions, and get ready for the game after this. Get ready to tackle NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel Sportsbook app. Gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right, you're back on Locked On UConn with your host here, Mark Zanetto, getting ready for the 3:30 tip of the UConn men versus the Colorado Buffaloes. And maybe one day this is a conference game. To give you all those Big 12 people some thoughts with this as we go down. But, I think for me, some keys here. I have 4 keys to victory. Defense first. UConn has to get up their defensive metrics. They dropped from I think like 6 or 7 to like 30th in Ken Pom from defense. They have to have better scoring defense here. They're only giving up 51 points per game. But I think in terms of the efficiency of this, they gave up 99 yesterday. So that took a big hit. I think they were only giving up like 40-something points earlier. I think the focus is shutting down Colorado's backcourt and really kind of making it difficult for entry passes to Elijah Malone and others that are going to try to, figure out a way to slow down UConn's attack. Rebounding, Tarris Reed and Liam McNeely, dominance on the boards. Everybody outside of Tarris needs to be an improved rebounder. Okay, maybe Alex. UConn's rebounding margin is third in the NCAA at plus 16.5. They out rebounded Memphis pretty handily yesterday, but still defensively, it's really just about timely rebounds. Like there were some possessions in the second half where when UConn was down, even before they got down 13, when they were down 6 or 7, where they allowed Memphis to get second and third chance opportunities. That can't happen today against Colorado. I think UConn needs to be more efficient on offense in terms of how they get into their sets earlier. Colorado may do what the last two opponents did to UConn, which is slow them down with that 3-quarter court press, which does not intend to kind of turn you over. It just intends to slow you down, so you don't start your offense until there's about 20 seconds to go in the shot clock. So it limits possessions, and when you're a team that is not as talented, because I'll be honest with you, I think Memphis played that game perfectly, and I think everyone's going to start to copy that, which is UConn may have more talent than other teams, but Memphis had some guys who they could control pace and a backcourt that dominated UConn's backcourt, and they didn't fall into the trap of other teams, which is kind of letting UConn dictate to them. They dictated to UConn. So I think that's something that is an adjustment that needs to happen. The bench impact, who starts, who doesn't, but regardless, if it's the same starting 5, then we need big-time contributions from Haas. We need big-time contributions from Jalen Stewart, maybe Jay Ross, maybe Yusef Singari gets a little run. I know he didn't play, but for like 2 seconds yesterday to try to tip out a ball, which we almost got. But maybe it's time to kind of not necessarily end the Samson Johnson experience, but just 3-headed monster is not a bad idea, especially if we're going to have this many foul issues all year, because it's been the same thing every game. So I was really bad with my score prediction last time. I'll pick UConn 85, Colorado 75. I think it's going to be closer than what most people expect, but I think UConn still wins by double digits. I think they're going to be able to adapt to what Colorado does. I don't think they have the same backcourt that is as dynamic as Memphis. And I think that's going to allow UConn to kind of get out to a big lead. Maybe I'm wrong and it's closer. Maybe I'm wrong and they win by more. The one thing I don't want to be wrong about is UConn losing again, because if they were to lose to Colorado, then we need to start evaluating if this team is even an NCAA tournament team. That's where I would go after if they lost to a Colorado team that is, I think, 70 in Ken Pom, and is not particularly talented. They're good. Everybody's good at this point. You're going to play 25 of the next 26 games are all going to be against high major, good basketball clubs, some better than others. So buckle up, guys. It's going to be an interesting season, but also, I'm going to say this in closing. Whether we win the next 2 games or we go 1-2 or 0-3 or whatever, this team is a work in progress. If this team makes the NCAA tournament this year as like a 6 or 7 seed, let's not all lose our collective minds over it. I'm just prefacing it with that. I don't think that's what's going to happen, but if it does, because every team is different from year to year, it's okay to admit that we were wrong about the team that we thought we were getting, but it's still early enough to admit that we don't know yet, and that this could just be one speed bump on another fantastic season. So keep that in mind as we go into this game against Colorado. I appreciate you guys jumping on as always and watching the show. We'll be on after the show to talk live reaction on Locked On Live, and would love for you guys to join us. But until then, this has been another episode of Locked On UConn. I'm your host, Mark Zanetto, asking you to stay locked on, stay connected, make sure that toughness meter is what? Always rising. And as always, go Huskies.